Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another installment of Scott Selections here for Sunday, December 29th. Before we get into today's play of the day, quick recap of what happened yesterday. We ended up picking up a win with the play of the day on Justin Fields under 37.5 rushing yards, which we ended up getting at minus 112 on FanDuel. The game was crazy. I did think Clemson would win. I also liked the under, so that ended up working out. I have a future ticket on Clemson that also worked out. Game was absolutely nuts. Ohio State probably got screwed over on the targeting penalty I didn't agree with. The fumble overturn was a bit questionable. Either or, Fields was pretty much not a sweat whatsoever. He had one rush for 21 yards in the first half, but he got sacked about 5 times, and he also scrambled a couple of times on some really brief runs for about like 1 or 2, occasionally 4 yards on some read option plays. But as a whole, Fields ended up not getting close due to the sacks, which count as rushing yards that I talked about yesterday. And Fields ended up having 14 carries for 13 rushing yards as he finished well under the posted total. So we were able to pick up a very nice win. Other than that, though, it's NFL coming up on Sunday, and it is Week 17, so it might be the last time that your favorite team is going to be playing on Sunday. So hopefully your respective team will either win or, well, if you're rooting for a good draft pick, potentially lose, but that remains to be seen. But in terms of the play of the day, there are still a couple of games that matter, and that's also why I like this game in particular. Something that you have to keep in mind for Week 17 before you bet it is to not only just look at the number, look at the motivation. Some teams aren't using starters. Some teams just aren't going to be interested in the game itself. They are going to be looking forward to Hawaii or wherever they're going to be traveling during the offseason for vacation, as this will be the final game of the season. You have a couple of players fighting for some incentives, some yard bonuses, some sack bonuses, stuff like that. But for the most part, most of the players that are on losing teams pretty much have nothing to play for, and they will look to potentially mail it in going into the offseason, so keep that in mind. But that'll bring us to the play of the day. This game will be taking place at 1 o'clock, and it is going to be a matchup on the Los Angeles Chargers and the Kansas City Chiefs. And we actually like the Kansas City Chiefs at minus 8.5, which is available on DraftKings at minus 112. Just to tell you how good of a deal that is, on FanDuel right now, that same game as the Chiefs at minus 9.5 at minus 110, and it's available at 8.5 on DraftKings at minus 112. So for 2 cents, you get an extra point of value. That's worth it in itself. Kansas City even bet up pretty much market-wide to 9.5 and even 10 in some spots here. So 8.5 is an absolute gift at the time recording of 3:35 Eastern Time on December 29th. Reason for the early video is because I'm going to be on a flight tomorrow, and I know I won't be able to make the video at the normal time. So for that reason, I will be giving out my thoughts on the game now, and I like the Chiefs minus 8.5 on DraftKings as the play of the day. Now, I just talked about motivation. The Chargers have nothing to play for. They are 5-10. They have fallen apart. They have lost 4 of their last 5 games. They've just been really, really bad, and they lost their last game in the home finale against the Raiders. They've actually lost 5 of their last 6, haven't really been competitive in many of those games, and they're facing off against a Kansas City team that has looked like an absolute juggernaut in the last couple of weeks. Kansas City has won each of their last 5 games, and Kansas City's defense has been the story, as they have not allowed more than 16 points in a game in each of the last 4 weeks, and they have not allowed more than 17 points in each of the last 5 weeks, so they've been just absolutely humming defensively. And the first meeting between these two teams took place in Mexico on that Monday night game where the turf was kind of questionable. They're returning to Arrowhead here. The Chargers, they're used to playing road games at home. They're playing in Kansas City. Kansas City needs to win this game if they want to keep the 3 seed and potentially even move up to the 2. It's not realistic to move up to the 2, but it is still possible. So the Chargers have nothing to play for. It could be Anthony Lynn's last game as the head coach, but there are rumors that the Chargers might actually bring him back. Personally, I wouldn't. I think he's a terrible head coach. But, that's why the Chargers are going to do whatever you want anyway. But overall, they might bring him back. Rivers has still been an interception just machine. He's thrown 18 picks. He's nowhere near Jameis level, but he's been pretty bad. In Kansas City, even though the only way they can get the 2 seed and a bye is by New England losing to Miami, which definitely will not happen. But in order to keep the 3 seed, they need to beat the Chargers or have the Texans lose. So in other words, if you win, you keep the 3. So the Chiefs will definitely look for a solid performance at home. And the Chargers have nothing to play for besides the division rivalry, which really is kind of overblown based on just how badly the Chargers have played over the last month or so. So Kansas City, I think, should win this game pretty handily. I think they'll win this game going away. They're going to be fully motivated at home. They're in great form, and the Chargers should turn the ball over a couple more times, whether it's Gordon fumbling or Rivers throwing interceptions. And Mahomes, he struggled against the Chargers in the first meeting in Mexico. I think he'll go off. I think Hill, who got injured in that Monday night game and did not play the majority of it, who's healthy once again, I think he will play well. I think Kelsey's going to be tough to stop. And I think the Chiefs should be able to win this game by at least 10 points. So for me, the play of the day here on Sunday, December 29th, will be the Kansas City Chiefs minus 8.5, which is available on DraftKings at minus 112. Other than that, though, I'll give out some leans on the football card because of the large amount of games going on. First of all, lean to New Orleans minus 13.5 here, or minus 13, depending where you can get it. Carolina, talked about teams that have completely folded. Carolina's folded, and New Orleans still needs to win this game, especially if it wants to keep a bye and have a shot at the potential 1 seed. New Orleans is currently the 3rd seed, but they need Green Bay or the 49ers to lose. So New Orleans needs to get this win, and I think they should be able to get the job done against a Carolina team that's gotten blown out each of the last, I don't even know how long. They've been terrible for the last month or so. When you fire your head coach and your team loses by even more than they were losing by originally, I don't think your head coach was the problem. Ron Rivera got thrown under the bus because of the fact that the team had no quarterback, and they still have no quarterback. And Will Grier, who was absolutely terrible last week against the Colts, gets another start against New Orleans. This game will get ugly. I think New Orleans should be able to win this game by at least I'd say 14 or even 20 points. This game's going to get ugly. Other than that, though, looking at the rest of the card, lean to Atlanta on at Pick'em against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, if you've looked at their numbers, even though their record is not that bad at 7-8, they've been awful at home this season. Kind of rare. They've been pretty good. They've been really good on the road. Tampa's 2-5 at home at Raymond James Stadium. Coming off a tough loss against Houston, they were on a good winning streak there, but the receivers are still injured. Godwin's still out. Mike Evans is on IR. Even Winston's been injured. And Atlanta, even though they have not played well, Dan Quinn has been announced that he will be returning next season. Do I agree with the move? Overall, don't really hate it, to be honest. Do I think he's a great coach? No. But they've actually shown signs of life in the second half, and they still made it to a Super Bowl in the end, so I can understand why they've been a little bit more lenient with his leash rather than just throwing him into the fire. But Atlanta has won each of the last 3 games. They beat Carolina, who's been terrible. Jacksonville has been terrible, but they did beat San Francisco on the road by 7. Big win there. And the 2 games against garbage opponents, they won by at least 12. I think Pick'em's a little bit low here, especially with Tampa Bay missing most of their weapons on offense. I think Atlanta should get the job done. The defense will look good. I think they'll force a couple turnovers from Winston. And I think Matt Ryan will do enough to get the job done here. So lean to Atlanta. I think they'll win by a field goal. Lean to the Falcons on that one. Other than that, like the Packers' first half against Detroit. Depends on where you can get it at. It's available at either -7 or -6.5. Pretty heavy juice on the 6.5, but I still prefer the 6.5 on that spot. The Lions have nothing to play for. They have absolutely folded. I still think it's hilarious the Lions are bringing back Matt Patricia, as he's just not a good head coach. I mean, if you watch the Lions play, I know you could argue that Stafford got injured and that a couple of key I get it. He's not a good coach. If you just watch the Lions play, there's nothing that he does that exudes confidence. And considering the fact that the team started out 2-0-1 and they started out 3-3 and proceeded 3-3-1 and proceeded to lose their next 8 games, this team is completely imploded. And Green Bay needs to win in order to keep the bye, because if they win this game and San Francisco loses, Green Bay gets the 1. If they win this game, they keep the 2. And the bye is going to be crucial for Green Bay if they want to end up playing not only in a bye but also a home game in the second round of the playoffs. Big deal there. For me, Green Bay, I think, will win this game going away. I know they haven't looked impressive offensively in second half of games, but first half, I really like them at 6.5 here. Detroit, I don't think they're going to wave the flag. They might look for some, brief spark or something, maybe in the home finale. Do I think it matters? No. I mean, Green Bay needs to win this game. I think Jones will have a big game. I think Adams is pretty solid. I think Lazard played pretty well. But Green Bay's been known to play well in the first half of games, and I think they should be able to do that against this really just awful Lions defense. So lean to Green Bay -6.5 on that one. Other than that, couple of games where I don't want to touch involving some just benchings of players. The Buffalo game against the Jets I have no interest in as a result. I know money has come in on the Jets naturally because of the fact that Buffalo has announced that the starters will play some of the game but not all of the game. And I know that money's coming on Pittsburgh because Baltimore announced that they're not going to be using Lamar Jackson and some of the other starters. Of course they shouldn't because they already locked up the 1 seed in the AFC. The only problem is, if you bet on Pittsburgh, you're betting on the Duck Hodges offense, and I still think Robert Griffin III is better than Duck Hodges. So, do I think Pittsburgh can win the game? I think they could. Do I think they will? I don't know. I really don't know the answer to that. I'm not going to touch the Pittsburgh game. If you want to talk about motivation, you kind of need Pittsburgh. But I really just don't think Pittsburgh is that good. Their defense is really good. Their offense stinks. And Baltimore's defense is pretty good. Their offensive scheme is pretty good. I mean, I don't know how Robert Griffin III is going to play in his first start since, I don't even know how long. It's been a long time since his first start. Probably since he was on Cleveland. But overall, I mean, I'm not going to touch that game, so I would personally pass on that. I don't know if Kyler Murray's going to play for Arizona, so that's a big deal in that one. Don't really know my thoughts on that. In terms of the other games, though, I will lean to Indy -6 against Jacksonville. This line looks really questionable, and I just mentioned I like to bet on teams that actually have something to play for. But Jacksonville announced they're not going to bring back Doug Marrone pretty much today or yesterday or whatever. I don't know what Jacksonville's playing for at this point. They ended up beating Oakland. It was impressive that they were able to come from behind. They know the coach is gone, so I don't really know what they're playing for, so to speak. This money's soared in on the Colts. They've gone from -1 to -6. It's a little bit high for me, but I think it's high for a reason. Lean to the Colts. I think they'll win by at least a touchdown. And I will lean... what do I like here? I'm actually going to lean to the under 44.5 between the... I'm sorry. I'm trying to look at which line I was... My bad. No. I misspoke on the line there. I do like the under 45 between the Rams and the Cardinals. I thought it was at 44.5, but it is at 45. In that game, Kyler Murray might not play. I know that the Rams' offense has looked good recently against the 49ers, and they also were able to smack Arizona the first time they played. But Kyler Murray, if he's not playing, I'm a bit concerned there. The defensive line for Arizona's played really well, especially last week. Chandler Jones has been fantastic, and he's back in the Defensive Player of the Year award race. I just think it's going to be a lower-scoring game. I personally have a sprinkle of Kyler Murray Rookie of the Year money at plus 800, and I hope he's healthy because Josh Jacobs is not playing. Do I think he's going to play? I don't think there's any reason why he should play. Arizona has nothing to play for. But for me, I'll lean to the under. I think both teams just look forward to get to the holiday. Just get to their time off, get to New Year's, get to the break. And other than that, though, that's my thoughts on the NFL card. Play of the day, once again, though, will be on the Kansas City Chiefs -8.5, which is available on DraftKings at -112. Other than that, that's going to do the installment of Scott Selections here for Sunday, December 29th. Good luck to all of you and your respective bets today. Bye, everyone.